Matthew Lee, Intercity Press, on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. Thanks a lot for this regular briefing that you give. I wanted to ask on financing. I noticed on page 4 of your presentation that the outstanding payments for contingent-owned equipment seems to have gone up year to year. And it's not so much, I'm sure you can say maybe it's just a product of timing. But one, if you can explain that, and I wanted to ask you two specific things about peacekeeping reimbursal. One has to do with, I was told by the then head of UNMEER that there were several hundred 4x4s that were moved from UNMEER in Darfur to the UNMEER, the Ebola mission in West Africa. And I'm wondering, does this show up in the numbers? It seems like they're probably worth a lot of money, and my understanding is that they're now out of service. So I don't know if this is ringing any bells. And the other one has to do with a debate that was in the C-34 committee about risk premium for peacekeepers serving in dangerous missions. And a number of the troop contributing countries complained that, for example, they were told in Central African Republic it's not sufficiently dangerous to justify this risk premium that the GA had approved. And I wanted to know who makes that decision, and how could the Secretariat justify calling CAR not a dangerous post, given the reports they put out? And then I'm compelled to ask you about the staff union, not pension fund, but staff union, since you're also in charge of that. It seems to still be a standoff. Maybe you have an update on some getting it back together, but there are complaints that although there's no recognized staff union, that the previous 44th out of office one was allowed to participate in the town hall meeting on the pension fund, and also to be doing now a collection about Nepal, which is laudable. But I wanted to know, what's the position of Department of Management on getting a staff union that you can recognize and negotiate with going forward? Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for the question about this. First of all, contingent on equipment, you have noticed that there's increased trend of the COE outs. I'm not very sure with the data itself does not demonstrate, the trend of increase. I think you're familiar with the process of COE reimbursement. In essence, what it means is that there is a formula of assessing COE, contingent on equipment value reimbursement. And based on that, this mission and then troop contributing country have to establish the value of equipment. And then you have to sign, agreement on the MOU. And that takes some time. You cannot just, in case of a troop cost, it's simple because you can just number of troops, which means how many people there. But the contingent equipment, sometimes letter of assist is more complicated services than this one. You really need to talk a lot of time to talk about. That is the issue. So that you cannot just this is we're talking about end of March statistics really. And if there is a big, for instance, in contingent on equipment, which is not settled, for instance, it may be affecting this one. So I really don't think that we are kind of a policy. We have a policy to slow down or increase COE. This is definitely not one thing. Second thing is about the question of the APC and the APC. I know a little bit about it, but because initial stage of Ebola mission, they consider the security factors, and then so they made a decision to transfer from mission to Ebola mission. But after Ebola mission is going to be completing, that APC is no longer needed, and we brought back to the original mission. It's not the number you're talking about, a very small number, I think we're talking about.
If you don't mind, just because I was asking actually about not armored personnel carriers, but 4x4s. I was told by Mr. Banbury that there were hundreds of unarmored 4x4s that were parked in a parking lot in UNMEER that were moved to the UNMEER zone, and that probably after being used for transporting bodies of people who expired due to Ebola were going to be burned, destroyed. That was the phrase that, kind of dramatic phrase that he used, but they weren't going to be put back. So I just wondered, how is this accounted for? It seems it might be a good idea, but it's a lot of cars, and so how is it done?
Well, that part of 4.4, it doesn't come to my attention, so that I think it's appropriate for me to talk with these relevant people in DFS. And same thing as about danger, the portion of CAR. I think this is mainly responsibility of DFS, unless I think you're not familiar with DFS. I think we'll refer this matter to DFS and then probably through you to come back to this answer. You mentioned about staff union thing. Yes, again, I feel myself that we really need, this the kind of the much self-enlightened attitude of all parties concerned. As a kind of management, we try to be very careful not to be interfering in this union leadership. But at the same time, we try to facilitate, suggesting the couple of times way out, including appointing some kind of independent objective mediator or some advisor outside and other things. And thought sometime it's moving, but finally it didn't meet satisfaction all parties concerned, and the stalemate continued. And I think some effort has been made to organize a new election. But again, we don't want to see the same thing happens repeated. So therefore, polling officers have to be, created in such a way that every party will feel comfortable on this one. So therefore, that same thing will not be repeated this year. It's true, it's taking time, and we very much hope that it be much, because it is not only, I would say, staff themselves, but also management, everybody. We are moving so fast in many things in management area. We really need the good staff representative. But just I wanted to add, this couple of weeks ago, we have organization-wise staff management committee. That's once a year. I'm head of delegation, and we have 12, 13 staff representatives throughout the world. We get together. It has been extremely positive, business-like, constructive, and we are sorting out many issues constructively. So the only one area is a New York representative. We really want to see that this be resolved as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.
So on the pension fund, I know that you know that some of the people working there have raised a series of what they call the irregularities. And I just wanted to know, having heard from people that were inside the town hall meeting, is there in fact an OIOS sort of formal investigation to either disprove, prove, confirm, or deny the charges that have been leveled by the people that work there? And also, what is the status of the cafeteria in the South Annex building? Is it, as described, going to be closed down for security purposes, and then what happens? Thanks.
Okay. The question about pension fund, there was allegation of misconduct and irregularities by individual in the pension fund secretariat. That has been brought to attention of OIOS. And my understanding is that, obviously, I cannot speak on behalf of OIS, but my understanding is that OIS is taking very seriously these allegations and collecting all information and analyzing all this data and other things, and in the process of deciding, what is the best way to proceed, whether it should be a special review or investigation, other things. This is where they stand. So they take it very seriously. About cafeteria and other things, probably I just didn't complete your story on the CMP. Along 42nd Street, I mentioned about security. As soon as some of the small works, perhaps you noticed along First Avenue, particularly entering into this building by car. It's some repair work going on this one. As soon as this First Avenue become completely safe against any attack, and we are hoping to achieve this, but that will be happening the middle of July this year. I don't want to say so much about opening. We are prepared for any eventuality to the protection of this compound. That is our responsibility. So therefore, 42nd Street, 48th, you are familiar with things. We have to be very cautious, particularly 42nd Street. There are two buildings. We have a library, and then this cafeteria, we call South Annex building. This Department of Safety and Security advised us that these two buildings should not be used for high-intensity use, meaning a lot of people will gather together, including like a cafeteria, one things. That's why we are rearranging these facilities inside complex. Obviously, this cafeteria has a large space and good location, and it's a pity that we cannot use it for security reason. But I don't think I can take a risk of responsibility. of
Has
staff.
New York City considered closing
We
down
have
or limiting the exit
Yes,
ramp?
indeed. We have been discussing and other things. And New York City has added police patrol and then others. They have done some additional, prosecution. But not to the extent that they close completely the 42nd, this ramp from this FDR from this one. This has mitigated some of the security concern, but not completely. So it fundamentally doesn't change. So therefore, the management, we are making alternative arrangement for facility. Initial stages are fourth floor. They are considered staff cafeteria. I think all the time I must know that originally there was a staff cafeteria. It's a very nice corner. And this other side of the delegate dining room, the other side, that's going to be open in July. And then this additional facility of basement, and then also coffee place and other thing. We're making kind of an effort within complex because I feel minimum responsibility to provide those facilities. But I know that it's not going to be satisfactory, perfect. But we don't have a real space problem. So within the constraint, we are doing our best. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks
Thank you
very
very
much for
much.
this briefing. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
And the $9 country is?
But I need to tell you, so this is for next year. It's Central African Republic.
What's the 30 million one?
The 30 million is Venezuela. But this is, okay, it's likely that they will have paid in the meantime.
So what is the 2 years from now? So
2
2 years
still
from now.
have, yeah. So they still